This is exactly like yoga. Yoga has been in our culture for thousands of years. Because
True.
Americans are talking about it, we think, oh my God, I need to do yoga now. Sustainable living is the exact same thing. After the Bangalore flood, a lot of people in Bangalore said, okay, we need to change. Uh, After
Correct.
the Australian fires, Australia sort of changed a lot. And these episodes have started happening so frequently now that now there's a larger ripple effect of that.
Welcome to Wonder Woman Wednesday and Beyond Her Story, an interview series with the Wonder Women around us. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. And most of us live our life that there is indeed someone out there, and very few take up this mission. But today we have with us one such special guest who is on a mission to make the world a greener and more sustainable place. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to the incredible Chaitsi Ahuja, a social entrepreneur and the driving force behind Brown Living. This is India's first plastic free and chemical free online marketplace for all things sustainable. Chaitsi is the founder and CEO of Brown Living. She has also been featured in the 100 Emerging Women Leaders by YourStory. She's a TEDx speaker and has won the Best Woman Entrepreneur at the Mint Start Icon Awards 2023. It doesn't end here. She has also been selected for the Google for Startups Accelerator program, which is a program for women founders. Without further ado, let's welcome Chaitsi Ahuja and have an extraordinary conversation about sustainability, entrepreneurship, and the power of making a difference. Thank you for joining us today, Chaitsi.
Thank you, Sneha. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction and having me here. I'm really excited to have this chat.
Yeah, I think for any conversations to start, it's always good to start from the beginning. So, how did you first become passionate about sustainability and the environment?
I think it's something that comes to me from my grandmother. I also actually grew up with uh, a, a breathing issue, and so I used to spend a lot of time in my garden because I was not otherwise allowed to go play with the other kids, etc. And generally, I would just feel like a sense of calm when I was around nature, and that was always something that sort of brought me calmed me down whenever I was angry. When you're a teenager, you tend to have these moments, and I would always
Yeah.
find like happiness and calm in nature. And I always thought that we all must do our part, or we all must stay closer to nature to be able to still stay connected and sane in some way.
Oh, that's a beautiful thought, actually. uh, so, was there some moment which was like particularly that influenced you, or was it a part of, as you were growing up and these things started happening, you decided?
It's always been a priority to you know like let's say use natural products at home. Like we've all grown up using the besan uppan and eating fresh local fruits which were seasonal. I don't think that it's something that there wasn't really a tipping point. It was just a way of life. I
Okay.
remember taking our own food whenever we were going out on picnics or day trips or vacations. We've always carried our own water. So all of these things that people talk about today, that it's stylish to sort of say no to plastic. It's actually very ingrained in our Indian culture. So I always thought that uh, it's important to sort of sometimes make these things fashionable for more people to adapt to it. And that's why you see this whole movement around sustainability. But to be honest,
Correct.
it's always been a part of our life. It's a lifestyle. It's not something that has happened overnight. So I don't think I should also be celebrated to doing this because it's so basic, right? And uh, we've all been doing it. So why celebrate one person or one sort of community? It's everybody's doing their part.
True, but then I think, the lifestyle that we have started living now, I mean, it's changed quite a lot from the time maybe
Hmm.
it was at least 20, 30 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
it's always good to be conscious and aware is what I feel, right? What do
Mm.
you think?
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Yeah, there's been a lot of changes in the way we consume food, the way we shop today. I think with all these apps delivering everything to our homes, they also have to ensure freshness. So plastic became
Correct.
something that everybody uses in every sort of object that we buy. Like even if you go to buy steel burtons, it still comes wrapped in plastic because the vendor needs
Correct.
to keep it clean. But there are other ways of doing that. You don't need plastic in everything in every form. I agree that it's required in certain settings or certain sort of you know uh, product lines, but it's not necessary in everything. So that's the that's the thing that I think we should consider, and that's also where I started. Okay, what are the places where I can avoid it
Yeah.
without breaking the bank or without affecting my sort of spend patterns a lot, and that's how I got started, made small changes, and it's also something that um, you don't need to say no to everything all the time, but you can of course make choices. Like yes, I can say I can carry my own bottle and say no to like 20,000 plastic bottles that I will use in my lifetime because that's a
Correct.
small
Yeah.
price. But there are certain things like uh, when you're traveling, for example, and you need to carry food and you cannot always have heavy glass jars or containers to carry around. Yes, you should reuse some of the stuff that's already there. So I think this whole idea of sustainable living is about maintaining that balance and taking less from existing resources. So it's a lot about living mindfully. It's a lot about like thinking before consuming. With
Correct.
endless scrolling on Instagram today, we've actually lost touch with okay, what do we really need? Do we really need that new bag or that new shirt
Yeah.
that everybody's
Correct.
talking about? So that's something that we should sort of always keep track of uh, and be mindful in all senses.
Correct. Yeah, I agree 100% because I think when each one of us are mindful and become aware, that's when we can start seeing the difference.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what was the inspiration behind starting Brown Living? And like, what was your thought process when you started it? Or like, what was that aha moment which got you
Mm.
into this?
So I already talked about how I've always lived a life that was
Yeah.
less based and more mindful. But through work, I used to travel a lot, and I've dabbled in 3 4 different industries. Worked in events, worked in product design development, worked in China extensively with like huge scale factories. Also worked in FMCG. Spent a lot of time in like convenience stores, kirana stores, retail stores, fashion stores across the
Okay.
7 8 years of work that I have. And um, you know, it always used to pinch me that why is everything like always wrapped in like unnecessary things? Why is there so many layers before like you actually get to the right product? It's like when we were kids and we used to get this little gift in like 5 boxes wrapped one inside the
Yeah,
other. That's
true.
what happens on e-commerce today. And it's a delight for, let's say, on a special occasion when you get a gift like that, but everything coming wrapped in so many layers, it's just waste of resources, right? And so I started questioning a lot of the shopping that I used to do online. I also started questioning how packaging plays, what role does actually packaging play in our consumption habits? And there were there were multiple events that happened. So there was a big cleanup where I actually found packets of milk and chips and biscuits from many, many years ago. Like there was a milk packet which I found from 20 years ago. And in
Okay.
another instance, I was trying to change my lifestyle and getting some inspiration. So I bought a book from Amazon, which actually was 100 Ways to Live Without Plastic, and it actually came wrapped in a plastic wrapper.
Oh.
So these things I found really silly, and I was like, is nobody really solving for this? What is happening? And then I actually found a lot of sustainable brands that I started using
Okay.
purely to reduce my waste. And I knew that those guys were, doing the right thing in terms of materials, ingredients. employing a certain kind of people, giving them fair wage, etc. And there were certain
Mm.
value systems that I sort of believed in and agreed. And so I started doing a lot of interactions with these brands, asking them lots of questions, uncomfortable ones, saying you're claiming
Okay.
you're organic, but how can you prove that, etc. And when I did that, there were lots of business level problems that came through, and I was like, why is your price point so high? How can you claim that you are fair trade? What are the things that you sort of practice? And that gave me a good sense of how sustainable businesses work specifically.
Okay.
And I had a great understanding of how mainstream businesses who are driven by profit, who don't really care, they only want to, improve their bottom line, improve margins, grow at a tremendous scale. And so there were these two very starkly different ways of running a business, but of course with the objective of making a profit, right? And both companies were making profit, but one had a better way of dealing with it without harming anybody in the process, and one was just mindlessly running and growing. So
Yeah.
I said, okay, um, I definitely agree with this side of the world, and so sat down, created a framework which is called the Brown Lens today. uh, that framework was a simple Excel sheet where I put together a few questions saying, what do people care about when they think about sustainability, right? We care about materials, ingredients, packaging. How does the overall product and its life cycle impact the world? Where does it end up? Is it designed
Yeah.
well? Does it solve a problem, etc.? And created that framework, and I literally just went on different websites and started like ticking boxes in that framework. And to my surprise, I found so many brands that had so many things right and maybe needed help in one or two areas. And so I said,
Okay.
okay, I'm going to try and help them. And that's when I realized that there are lots of brands who are trying to go towards sustainability, because everybody is trying to now realize that hey, we don't have much time and we need to sort of change the way
Correct.
we do business or live our lives or live a lifestyle. So, and there's a lot of consumer pressure as well. Like consumers like me are everywhere today. Uh,
Correct.
so so I said, okay, how can we do this at scale? And how do we find a way to solve this consumption problem? Because people are solving for EVs, energy, everybody's solving
Correct.
for larger problems which are sexy,
Bigger.
that look,
Yeah.
okay, great, I'm investing in technology and I'm doing this innovation, etc. But there's nobody actually solving the problem for end consumer. If I am a
Correct.
consumer, how do I get access to that solar panel in my house? Or if I uh, because there is a great power in collective uh, buying as well. So how do I empower individual consumers and individual businesses who are doing this, and how do we help them all together? So Brown Living is purely created with these two stakeholders in mind. There's the consumer who cares, and there's a business who cares. And how do we bring the two together, and how do we bring more
Okay.
of these people together over time? So we launched the marketplace purely to say that, okay, we are not just going to talk about sustainability. We're not just going to publish articles or say that, hey, try this. We're going to actually enable that. So we started with an action oriented platform where you could actually read about the product, understand their process, and shop. So, because eventually, if you don't buy it, it's as good as not created, right? Why will I create something that people
Correct.
don't want to buy? So we said, okay,
Yeah.
let's start with a commerce platform. And that's been live for about 4 years now. We've had tremendous
Okay.
success in terms of onboarding new brands, empowering consumers, empowering artisan groups that create these products, etc. And the phase two for us is also starting a lot of um, content and community related activities, which would mean we're going to start doing um, offline events where we have these interactions. We talk about the processes, take these brands, let's say, up to the country as well as international, and give them more
Okay.
avenues. And
So has this
as,
already started?
yeah, we've done that in various cities at like really different scales, but we're trying to sort of launch it in a big way in the next 1 year. So all
Okay.
of this sort of feeds back into the platform and saying that how do we build that community? How do we make it easy, accessible, and affordable for people to live a sustainable life? And Like for example, just last week we launched the WhatsApp end-to-end checkout. So we're trying to make it easy for
Yeah.
consumers to shop right inside WhatsApp. For sellers, we've launched like a whole bunch of services where we help them with like all sorts of everything they need for their business, whether it's getting access to capital or getting small services like photo shoots, video demos for their products, getting SEO optimizations, designing their pages better. So all of these things were
Oh,
sort of bringing forth at
okay.
very affordable rates, so that they can of course
Okay.
have access to all of that that all the big companies have, but like at much affordable rates. So we're trying to build this collective community and an ecosystem that helps
Yes.
everyone along the way. And we're trying to build that in some capacity.
Yeah. So I think rather than just restricting yourself to the marketplace, you're now. I think the base thing that is required. That's the thing that you have started working on now. Is it still a
Yeah.
part of Brown Living or
Yeah. So the idea always was to build an ecosystem, but of course we need to have faith. We cannot launch everything all together. So the commerce
correct? Yeah.
was launched first because that's when you actually get to understand how much intent is there. Do people actually want to pay for something that
Correct.
has some does something beyond something for themselves? And that made us realize that there are so many other things that can add as ancillary services, etc. And of course, there's a lot of conversation that we've had. Like every time we do a pop up, we, come back overwhelmed with like the kind of love, gratitude that we get. Everybody comes back and says, "You guys are doing such great work. How can we help
Yeah.
you?" So we also did a crowdfunding round, which did really well.
Awesome.
And these are all ways in which like we're sort of getting back a lot of love in many ways, and we're trying
Yeah.
to, of course, use that and do justice to everybody who's put faith in us.
So when you started with Brown Living, how many products did you have, and where are you today?
We started with, I think, 150 products.
Okay.
Today we have 65,000.
Awesome.
Spanning, when we started, we had about 15 brands who are still with us today. Today we have about 485 brands listed on the platform. And we've also evaluated another 800 in the last 4 years, which are in process of coming on board. It will happen over the next month. So there's like
Yeah.
this ongoing chain of conversations that we keep having. We help sellers with every sorts of like getting materials, getting packaging sourced, getting the right certification, understanding their sort of impact, and helping them
Yeah.
measure it, and all of these things. So yeah, those things take time, and yeah, till
Yeah.
we are
But
sure
I think in
we
four
don't onboard the
years, yeah, but I think in 4 years it's been quite a good amount of, I think it's very good. I mean, if you ask me the number of products and the number of
yeah,
brands that you're associated with, it's really good.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite exciting to just look back and see how far we've come.
Yeah. So, as a social entrepreneur, what advice would you give to individuals who are looking to incorporate sustainable practices into their everyday lives? I mean, not just maybe the products that we see, we think, and all that. There might be,
Hmm.
I'm sure you will be an expert in telling us, like, what are the things that can be done in our daily lives, right?
Yeah, so I would say that whether it's for your business, whether it's for your personal life, whether you're trying to do it for an office, it all starts with a mindset, right? And you need to look at a holistic level. So don't just look at the material of something. If somebody says it's recycled polyester, for example, right? I understand that it's recycled, but every time a polyester is washed, it will still leave microplastic. So you need to look at the whole cycle. You need to understand circular design as the very first step, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for any aspect of understanding sustainability and implementing it. So, and it's kind it can be overwhelming a little bit, but
Correct.
the basic thing is that uh, you use materials and things that actually are required. So, firstly, buy what you need. Forget about your wants. Something might look attractive, something might, in that moment you might want it. Uh, but really think about how long or how well can you use this. Is the product durable enough to last you a couple of years, or is it made using natural ingredients that are not abused? Like
Yeah.
cotton is great as a material, but it takes a lot of water to grow, but it's also abused as a material a lot because we've been demanding cotton for so long. Somebody was telling me this anecdote a couple of days back where there was a time when uh, the rich were wearing polyester and the poor were wearing cotton, and now it's the other way, right? And that's purely
Yeah.
because of the amount of material that is available, that
Yeah.
we've realized that it's hard to grow cotton and it takes so much resource that it becomes such a high price point. And
Correct. Yeah.
polyester, because of the scale at which it operates, it becomes so much cheaper. But because it's being used by such a large audience, it has a much
Yeah.
bigger impact on landfills, right? The same
Correct.
way,
Yeah.
because cotton decomposes, it doesn't, you don't see so much of it in landfills anymore, right? And that's so you need to really understand how things are made, what are they made of, and where will they end up after you are done using it. Because yes, you might donate it to someone, or you might, find another user for it. But the eventual end game, end goal, or end location for that product should actually go trickle down to the soil. And that's why the platform is also called Brown Living, where basically everything comes from brown to become green, and eventually it becomes brown again. So it's about the cycle of uh, growth and decomposition as well. So I would say, look at objects, look at things that you're using, do an audit of your dustbin, figure out, how many things are you actually throwing and how many things that you can actually um, recover, reuse, or compost to give new life. And that's
Yeah.
the basic funda that I use.
Yeah. But I think there's one thing that we need to look into is the information, right? That is, there's so much information available on the net, but you get a feeling of what is authentic, what is not. So I think the next step, that the next plan phase that you're planning, that would definitely help, as if you will be giving those kind of information, I think that will be the best thing. Next to
Yeah,
using those things, the first thing would be to understand them. And I think
yeah.
the second phase that
I
you're
think
planning with.
there's great importance which we need to put on experts, right? And that goes with
Yeah,
health also. Like a lot of doctors tell you that don't Google your way out of your disease. And that's
correct.
purely
Yeah,
because everybody is a content writer today, and there's so much content available on the internet that you don't know what is verified. And so it's
correct.
important to go to people who do this for a living, right? And even we don't make any claims. We actually work with manufacturers and understand what their processes are, how do their materials get made, and according to that framework, what is the best thing that works in terms of certification. So
Okay.
all of this information is verified by some, like by a group of curators, and we also verify whether they have certifications or not. And that's what makes it good quality products, right? And so, yes, so many things are available on Google. You're also, even today, if you go out in a retail store, you start seeing sections of sustainable fabric, this, that.
Yeah,
There will be a conscious label here and there,
correct.
but
Yeah.
you don't know if it's really true, because anybody in the name of marketing and in the name of making more profit will try to jump on this bandwagon. But
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
lots of brands who are actually spending money, who are actually doing all the research before they actually make a claim. The reason why the
correct. Yeah,
brown lens is not a rating, quantifiable rating method today is because it's very hard to calculate the actual impact of a product. And so we don't
okay.
want to give out a number which may or may not be true, or which is an average of an average, because those are sexy numbers to look at, but they may not be true. And so we are saying that qualitatively we evaluate everything. Uh, and we've, of
Hmm.
course, set forth what are those qualitative metrics. And basis those, we sort of, talk about sustainability, because it's very
Okay.
subjective. Sustainability means something completely different for a manufacturer who's making cars, because they
Yeah,
might look at financial sustainability. They might look at, hey, I'm only taking, uh, you know, renewable energy, but that might be sustainable as well. But the actual end product is may or may not be sustainable. So there's a lot of uh, gray areas in this place, and we've actually been able to define what sustainability means to us, which is certified plastic free, uh,
Yeah.
and organic, and the right materials and the right. And so we look at it from a holistic level. And I think that a lot of people should start looking at uh, products with that lens. And this lens is like usable by everybody. It's a framework that anybody can pick up
Correct.
and see and apply in any industry. So it's a great starting point. It's a great hot starter for you to get started on your journey. Um, and yeah, it's a great discovery for people to understand and make on their own. So yeah, I would urge everybody to sort of check that out. You can maybe put a link later.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Uh, so now you have a lot of artisans who contribute to your brown living, right?
Yeah.
So is there some success story that you would like to share as a part of this?
So we work with we directly don't work with artisans. We work with
Okay.
brands who employ these artisans. So they
Okay.
won't be my stories to tell. They would actually be the brand story. But I could give you a few examples where um, these brands employ, let's say, self-help groups, or women who typically don't even come to office, but they actually do stitching, etc., from their homes because they come from a background where women are not allowed to actually get out of their homes to do work or even do
Oh,
work,
yeah,
period. So
correct.
um, there's a lot of intent uh, for these women to sort of be independent, have their own. And independence not just means that having their own money, but it also means that they have something worthwhile. A lot of times, homemakers tend to feel like they are not worth anything, they don't do anything, but they actually do a lot. So there are lots of stories where we've heard that just because they were making a certain type of weave for a fabric, or they were involved in like a certain group, they were able to bring their family out of debt, over time, or
Yeah,
uh, they also had access to education for their children. Um,
yeah.
we also actually directly work with uh, grow trees, which does a lot of our tree plantation work, and we have a mission to plant 1 million trees. So with
Awesome.
these plantations, we employ um people from rural India, from around the areas where we're planting trees, to employ them, train them on. Of course, they know about the native, uh, trees and plants, but we work with them, give them a technical understanding of how to grow organic, how to
Okay.
work with the soil and not sort of use fertilizers, because they have now become traditional ways of farming, which is
Yeah,
counterproductive. But
yeah.
we do a lot of those trainings. We also specifically work with a lot of low income groups, especially women, because we
Okay.
want that independence to come through. Even in our office, in fact, we have most of us are women. You'll see our team page and you'll notice like 10 girls and 2 boys. So that's just
Okay.
something that's intrinsically started happening. It was not intended. It just so happened that women care more about the environment, apparently. I think there's some research also that talks about that.
But do you
So
believe that women can play a pivotal role in driving sustainable practices and creating more,
absolutely.
eco-conscious world?
There are so many women leaders. Vandana Shiva is one of them, who I really admire. There's, Jane Goodall, who's done great work in this space. There's a bunch of them out there. There's Greta Thunberg, all women, right? And these are people who have immense passion about making the world a better place. And I think intrinsically, we somehow, the way we are built, we tend to care more than men do. And I'm not trying to generalize. I'm not saying men don't care, but
Yeah,
we tend to
true.
care more about about holistic living, right?
Correct.
You'll notice when we were growing up, our mothers would care about how we eat, what we eat, how much we eat, etc.
Correct.
And those are all values that come through. We're just more emotional than men, and that's
Correct. And
who
I
we are.
think we
So
have that nurturing thing within women, right? Which
exactly,
comes out in
exactly.
these aspects of life.
And we also have a habit of like overthinking, but if you channel that overthinking in more productive ways, you can get so much done. We're also great multitaskers, which means that we're trying to,
Yeah.
you know, do so many things at the same time and do it well, right? So I think this problem can be tackled really well with women. And I already see a lot of women in this space. About 80% of our sellers are women run businesses. And we
Yeah.
notice this, all these things just happened. We didn't say,
Yeah.
okay, we want women entrepreneurs, but it just happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a sign.
Yeah, I think that's good to know. uh, yeah, now, I mean, sustainable living and all these things have come into India. It's become more evident in India now, right? So, what changes do you hope to see in the coming years in India in
I
terms
would
of
like to
sustainable
correct
living?
that statement, and this is exactly like yoga. Yoga has been in our culture for thousands of years, but because
True.
Americans are talking about it, we think, oh my God, I need to do yoga now. Sustainable living is the exact same thing. We've had so many
Okay.
Vedic practices in our country that were low waste, that were zero waste, that were using natural, local, seasonal materials all the time. But because sustainability is a word that uh, is
Is in
now
fashion.
trending, is in fashion,
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, I need to do this. So, which is what I said, right? We need to make these practices sexy. That's what a lot of people are trying to do now. And only then a larger group sort of adapts to it. If you see the Greenpeace documentary, they try to
Yeah.
do something so revolutionary and unheard of. They did that whole tour over the seas. Only when you do statements like that is when people start listening to you. So
Correct.
that that and you'll notice this in all revolutions that happened. Something really drastic happens, uh, and things change, right? Um,
Yeah.
so there have been so many episodes about uh, changing climates, floods, fires happening across the world that you
Yeah.
will see
Yeah.
pockets of interaction about sustainability happening. Like after the Bangalore flood, a lot of people in Bangalore said, okay, we need to change. Uh, After
Correct.
the Australian fires, Australia sort of changed a lot. And these episodes have started happening so frequently now that now there's a larger ripple effect of that, which
Correct.
is leading to sustainability becoming so important that everybody wants to do it. And that's also one reason why uh, there's a huge demand of these products or services. There's a huge you'll hear it in every news channel. You'll hear it. You'll see it on hoardings. You'll see it in airports. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's not enough people who are now capable of or have the right system, but are just slapping that name everywhere and using it. So we really need to figure out how this whole demand supply gap will be filled. And
Yeah.
I think about 8 years ago, there was high supply but less demand. But now, post COVID,
Mm.
I've seen this shift happening like crazy. So
Yeah.
we need more people to join this movement, and we need more people to do better in terms of running companies, businesses, services that, of course,
Yeah.
people will use. And the government's also trying to do a lot in terms of policy making, in terms of enabling a
Correct.
lot of this behavior. So
Yeah.
there's change happening at all fronts. We just have to make sure that we buy into that and we continue in this space.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Chaitsi. I think that was very insightful because, each person has a different take on what sustainability is, how to do this, and, it's based on what you hear, what you see, right? So I think this has
Mm.
really been very insightful. And we've spoken a lot of serious things, if I may say that. So
Yeah,
we'll have a quick rapid fire round, a little bit of fun, and okay, a little bit of seriousness in that too.
sure.
So shall we start with it?
Yes, please. I'm ready.
Yeah. Online shopping or shopping at physical stores?
Depends on what I'm buying, but physical stores,
Physical stores, okay. Handmade or upcycled products? You're the
handmade,
expert here, so.
handmade.
Okay. Eco-friendly packaging or minimal packaging?
Shouldn't they both coexist? I think both eco-friendly, minimal packaging.
Okay. So that's the best combination, you would say, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Virtual meetings or in-person meetings?
long virtual meetings or uh, short in person.
Okay. Fiction or non-fiction books? Little personal.
I don't read fiction. I'm a very realistic kind of person, so
Okay.
you'll find me reading
Non-fiction.
theories and yeah,
Okay. Outdoor adventure or cozy night in?
outdoor.
Okay. I think you being close to nature, it is expected.
Yes, it's right here.
Yeah. And what is your dream destination for a sustainable travel experience?
Hmm.
Anything in
I've
mind?
heard there are so many places I want to go, but uh, I think Sweden. I've heard that they are huge on sustainability, but I've been to Singapore. I'm not impressed, but I think Sweden is a good mix of nature and sustainability and
Yeah.
everything.
Which is your favorite sustainable product on Brown Living?
My most favorite product. That's a hard one.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
With so many products, it's definitely not easy.
I I love the beeswax wrap. It's a replacement for cling wrap. It's reusable up to 100 times. It's just a cotton cloth layered with beeswax coating, and yeah, I love what it can do for a home. So
Okay.
I love.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's the end of the rapid fire round and the end of the interview. So thank you, Chaitsi, actually for showing us that our choices and action matter. You know, through Brown Living, you've not only provided a platform for sustainable products, but also empowered countless artisans and individuals to make a difference. And with your second phase, I think the impact is going to be higher, you know?
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. This was great.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, is there any place that our viewers can connect with you? Of course, we leave the link for your
They
Brown
can,
Living in our
yeah,
description.
they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm available, approachable all the time.
Awesome. So thank you once again for joining us today and wishing you continued success on your path to creating a more sustainable and conscious future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.